the booklets that you'll need to go through an assessment with a family that you may be working with. You'll notice as well, I've already pointed out that there's a different one for owners and for renters, so you can choose which one works, which one's appropriate for the family that you'll be working with. The first thing that you have is you'll need to rip the first page off, because that's what it's the heavier kind of cardboard, cardstock feeling document. You'll rip that off and you'll put that between pages 2 and 3, because that's what keeps the pressure from bleeding through. So when you're walking through the house with a family, it's a basic checklist, and you'll need to note everything that's of concern. But then when you come back to work with the family and walk through them what the results of the assessment were, and I encourage you to do the walkthrough with them. Don't just do it on your own. You may encounter family members who don't want you walking through their house, all of their house, and that's fine. You probably are going to have some of those, and you'll just work with Ms. Bascom to write up. I don't know what her requirements are going to be for how to write that up. This additional document that you have, the folded sheet, is what you'll leave with them along with their copy of the assessment. I encourage you to use this and walk through it with them and circle and help them decide and prioritize what is it that they want to do. We talked several times today about the fact that people can't engage multiple different things at once. They need to take 2 or 3 things that they think are most important and most attainable for their families. You're not going to get them to change 10 things about their house, and nor should you. So assure them, reassure them, it's okay. I live in a house that's got lots of needs too. Tell them, empathize with them. Nobody lives in a perfect house, and it's okay. We all, though, have an opportunity to make small steps to make our environments, our home environments better. So think about those things. You will not necessarily need any of the materials. You're not going to be doing moisture meters. You're not doing a high. You're not in there for trying to make a sale, doing this for a real estate agent to decide if they can get a mortgage or not. This is really clearly about the health of the family living there. But know that if somebody was to be interested in a more sophisticated inspection, they could do that. And when I've been asked about who do I call for an inspection, I typically say real estate inspectors, so those that are working for mortgage companies and that go out and at the time of a sale of a house. That's the folks I would refer somebody to for if you had a rather high income family, well-resourced family that wanted that level of inspection. That's who to point them to. They can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk as well about that. If y'all happen to have a family that wanted more information, feel free to give them my number. But again, that's who you would refer to for that sort of thing. I would encourage you to leave the consumer guide with them as well. If after you've done the assessment and you've walked through what it is that they want to take action on, that's a good resource. And if you need more of those, we can work with Ms. Bascom to get more of those for you for the class. Some more things here, but y'all have that in the slides. Some of the things to be mindful of when you're going into the community. Think about the general age of the housing stock where you're going, so that'll kind of just get your mind ready for what should I expect here. Not all old houses are in disrepair, and not all new houses are in great shape. So don't go in with prejudging exactly how it's going to be, but you can kind of get yourself in a frame of mind for what to expect. It is important that you reflect back on what you've heard today and on the slides that we'll share. I've already sent them to Ms. Bascom, and she can disseminate those to you. It's important for you to reflect back on this material. Think about the association between the environmental exposures and health that we've talked about. We've talked a little bit about some building science sorts of things. Of course, we don't expect, I'm not a building scientist. I don't know all the ins and outs and technical aspects of this, and nor would we expect you to. Look at your checklist. Really no need for detection or devices, but also having that rapport. And that's what I was talking about a second ago. Just saying, I've got issues in my home too. Don't be intimidated by this. I've done this inspection on my house and I found, man, I'm overwhelmed by all I need to do. It's okay. So put their mind at ease, empathize with them. Ask them the question that I asked at the very beginning. Do you feel better when you leave the house than when you're home? And that could be a good clue. There may be something going on here that we need to look for. And start to kind of get drill down on what building-related factors seem to affect their health. Don't forget to talk with them about potential take-home exposures, that they may bring things into the house. Find out what you will probably do. This is part of your assessment of their overall family. But what are the take-home exposures? What kind of work do they do? Do they work in a factory? Do they work in a field? Actually, there's lead in dirt. So farmers who are walking in fields may bring lead back into the house. And try to assess for that also. So our goal of a home assessment is to assess, prevent, educate, and mitigate. We're about that initial first line of going in, doing the assessment in the case of the work that y'all are going to be doing, and use that as an avenue to provide education and ultimately to refer them to services that they can use to help mitigate the problems that have been identified. Go in with a list of resources in your area. You tell me your name. You referenced the LIFT program. Nancy referenced the LIFT program. Find out what there is in your community that may be of help for them. That's one example. In our area, there's Prairie Opportunity that has some grants on occasion, and you will just need to do a little bit of digging, a little bit more to find that out. I want to just emphasize that this is very important. Disclose what you know and what you don't know. Emphasize that you're not a building science person, you're not a contractor, you're not here to tell them how to do what you've identified as problems, but that you are trained as nurses and that you do understand quite a bit about the intersection of environmental exposures and health. And that's what you're here to talk about. So be sure to be fully transparent and honest about what it is that you know. Provide relevant publications, which we're providing to you to do. So these are, if you were to become interested in this, if this sort of lit a passion, lit some inspired you, these are partners that you could think of to build a Healthy Homes team in your community. Businesses, extension, health department, volunteers, healthcare providers should be on there as well. You would need multiple people to be at the table to help move a program like this forward in a more collective and collaborative way. Churches are great partners to help think about this. And we're into the winter now, but a lot of times churches will pipe up and start to think about, Miss Smith down the road seems to be living in a fairly dilapidated house. What can we do to help her get her house ready for the winter? And now that you've got some of this insight from this training, this might be a way for you to start thinking about in the future. How do you rally a team around people who already have an interest in making a difference in their community? So this is the second to last slide. Healthy home issues are defined locally. They are uniquely families, they're uniquely communities, and so while there is some science behind what a building should look like and the connection between exposures and outcomes, really housing is a socially constructed thing. There are people all over the world that live in housing that we would consider subpar, and there are people in parts of the world that would consider a lot of our regular average housing to be subpar. So housing is what's normal is socially constructed. We already talked about using partners to help make this a reality for you, identifying those partners that you would refer people to. Focus on the most critical issues first, just like you would in a visit as a nurse. Jump in where you can. Use the teachable moment. Maybe what you think is most important on the assessment may not be what catches the eye of the resident of the house. Use what they're interested in as your way to hook them and get them interested in moving change forward. And then strive for the greatest impact. And the greatest impact really is going to be what it is that they want to change, because that's where they're going to follow through. It's not about what we identify as absolutely the most pressing. It's what they see as the opportunity, the bottom line to help make a difference. So it has been a joy for us to be with you. I got a few followers, and I'll tweet the picture out in a bit. Y'all feel free to follow me. I'll tag you if you followed me today. Any questions? How can we help make this process clearer and better for you as you move forward? Ms. Bascom, any comments from you, questions, thoughts?
I just have a few closing remarks if you're done.
Yep.
Okay, everybody join me in giving another round of applause. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you and coming and giving us that presentation. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts in closing about this presentation. There were right at 90 people here today, so for the sake of my brain and doing math, because we've already talked about how I'm rusty, we're going to round up to 100. So if you all take this information and it touches your home, let's say you go home and you check your smoke detectors and you lock up your medicine cabinets and you lock up your chemicals and you just do small things like that, then you've touched your home. And then maybe you touch your parents' home because maybe they're elderly and you think, you know, I really need to go check what they've got under their cabinets and check their smoke detectors. And then maybe you have a child or a grandchild that stays in a home daycare program and you think, I need to check their home because my child is there or my grandchild is there most of the day every day. And then you're going to do a home healthy assessment in my class. So if each one of you has touched 4 homes from this, then that's 400 homes in the state of Mississippi that we've touched just from this training today. And we have 300 students in this class. So when everyone sees the online presentation, then we have hopefully touched somewhere around 1,200 homes in the state of Mississippi. So it doesn't have to be these huge, structural issues. It's those everyday things that we don't think about because I'm sure not all of this is new information. But it's just things that, I don't think about educating my patient with asthma on how they can reduce mold and dust in their home. I don't think about how I can educate my patient about their home safety. I may be a home health nurse or someone that's making visits in a home, a hospice nurse, and I'm not thinking, oh, well, I could check out their smoke detectors while I'm here, or I noticed this problem or that problem. I could actually help them with that. So just to bring that to your mind. And I just wanted to share a few little examples that I jotted down during the thing. I heard about a child, it wasn't my patient, I think it may have been like a case study that we discussed actually, but the child had gotten lead poisoning from the crib. I don't know if this is a common thing for children, but I know my son did it. When he got old enough to stand, he would stand up in the crib and chew on the sides of the crib because he was teething. And so he chewed like on the side of the crib, and then I bought the little covers to go around it for my daughter. But this family had an old crib that had been passed down generation after generation, and I had like lead paint on it, and the child had chewed the paint off and got lead poisoning. So something to think about. You might actually see something like this in the clinic. And then I personally have had to call poison control 3 times in my home, not related to a patient, twice for my daughter and once for my nephew. So you just never know what they can get into. And then the picture of the trampoline. We bought a trampoline for my kids for their birthdays. And we got the one with the netting around it. We're thinking we're going to be safe. It's got all the springs covered and everything. The first day they're out there playing on it, and my daughter is running around the outside of the net. I was like, that's there for a reason. So you just never know. But just something to think about and how we can apply this to real world situations. So I want to go over a little test with you real quick. So number 1, your client feels lousy at home, like having the flu, but feels better when she leaves. You think it could be a symptom related to her home. What do you assess for? All of the above. A contractor who does old home remodeling and brings home lead dust, and a farmer applying pesticides, bringing chemicals on clothing into the home are examples of? Great. So remember to ask what they do for a living and what chemicals they're around at work. 3, the phases of healthy home management include assessing the situation, preventing the problem, mitigating the problem, educating the home occupants to continue assessing the situation, and preventing a reoccurring problem. True. You notice there is separation of the gas water heater from the chimneys in your client's home. What are you worried about? C. 5, you notice the gas water heater in your client's home has soot all over the top. Does this concern you? Yes. You notice a large puddle in your client's front yard, but it has not rained recently. Does this concern you? Yes. There is a crack in your client's living room window, and you notice condensation and black stuff around the window sills. What should you educate your client about? Mold. And you notice black spots on the top of the bathroom walls and ceiling in your client's home. You should make sure the exhaust vents work and educate the occupant on using the exhaust vent and mold removal. True. And y'all, I don't think any of my exhaust vents in my home work, and I didn't think about it till this. I need to check on that. But if you turn this in, you'll get your 100 in Canvas before you leave. And everybody should have signed the sign-in sheet. I've got to turn that into M&S as well. Are there any questions before we leave?